Hey, it's Kim. Thanks for clicking on today's video. Today I will be doing a quick tutorial to show you how to create these bookmarks that I make using Vellum. And full disclosure, I'm actually not sure how quick this tutorial will be. It's not a long process at all. Just, you know, maybe I get a little bit chatty. So I did get in some new Vellums from Sterling Ink. These are just my preferred ones. You can of course get Vellums or pretty decorative papers from wherever you like. It doesn't even have to be Vellum. But I'm going to walk you through my process because I did get a couple of requests to show how I do it. And I got these in and it's time for me to make some more, especially considering this is the only one I can find at the moment. So I feel like that means I need more. So I am going to show you exactly how I make them and we can jump right into it. So first things first, let's go through the list of supplies. So for this venture or for this project, you're going to need a paper trimmer of some sort. I have two that I'll be showing you for varying reasons, which I'll explain, but of course you do not need to. You can also just use a pair of good scissors. You'll also need the actual vellums or the decorative papers. Like I said, it doesn't have to specifically be vellum. I just like to use these because they are very pretty. They have nice florals and graphics on them, and I think they just make really great bookmarks. You're also going to need a laminator, of course. This is the one that I have. It's Amazon Basics. Oh, this video is not sponsored by Sterling Ink, not sponsored by Amazon. However, I will have my Amazon affiliate links down in the description box if you want to purchase through those. Of course, I get a small, very small commission on any purchases you make through my links, so I do greatly appreciate it if you do. So I do have my laminator. Also have the laminating pouches. They're called thermal laminating pouches. This is the one that I have. This is by Scotch brand. This, I only have experience with this one because I went all in and bought like a pack of 100 probably about 2 years ago, and I still have a good amount of them left because I don't laminate a whole lot. Also, the thickness that I have is 5 millimeters. 5 millimeters. I believe it also comes, my focus is weird. I believe it also comes in a 3 millimeter thickness. I don't have experience with that one, so I'm not sure which is better, which is worse, but that's the one that I have. So you're going to need some laminating pouches and also some white paper. Now, of course, this only applies if you're using vellum, because vellum, let me pick up one to just show you, is transparent paper or semi-transparent paper. So in order to have the images and the graphics show through fully, I like to put white paper behind it because I also do make my bookmarks double-sided. So there's one piece of vellum on the front and another on the back, and if they were both translucent, you would kind of see through a little bit and maybe see the other image from the back, which is not the look that I was going for. So I do use white paper in between. If you are not using vellum and just like solid paper, the white paper is not needed. And if you're wondering, the paper that I'm using is HP Premium 28. Any copy paper will do, but I like this one because it is, while it's 28-pound paper, so it's not really thick, it's extremely bright white. So that's really why I like it underneath the vellum papers. And you can't really see through this one at all. Some 28-pound copy papers you can see through a little bit, so I like the thicker option. I also use this for printing inserts, FYI, if you wanted to know, for my ring planners as well. Alright, and one last optional item is a corner rounder. As you can see from my example here, I do round the corners. I don't leave them pointy and sharp because they would be pointy and sharp and then poke me. So I do use a corner rounder on those. Of course, not necessary. Also, you can do this with a pair of scissors if you really want it to round the corners and don't have a corner rounder on hand. Alright, so those are all of the supplies we are going to need. I'm going to plug in my laminator. I don't have it plugged in and warming up just yet. I'll do that, and then we're going to walk through how I'm going to cut down the vellum pieces of paper, what dimensions I'm going to cut them into, and all of that good stuff. So the two types of trimmers I have on hand are this one. I'm not sure if it has a name, what kind of trimmer it is. Like a bypass kind of trimmer. What is it called? I don't know, but it's one of these. And the other one that I have is a bit more heavy duty. So it's one of these where you use the little lever to cut down. The reason why I will probably use this one is because the blade on mine for this is a bit dull, and I don't think it'll cut through the laminating, like after they're laminated, very well. So that's the reason I won't use this one for cutting down the bookmarks after they've been laminated. However, I can use it for now. So I've been doing some thinking about how I'm going to cut down these vellums. I do have duplicates of all of these, so you didn't ask, but I'm telling you. But I was looking at this one, and I feel like if we did cut it down just into 4s, that would actually be really cute, but also maybe like too thick. So this is an 8.5 by 11 inch sheet of paper, so a typical letter size paper in the US. And if I cut this into 4s, what would that be? 5.5 divided by 2, 2.5, 2.75 wide, and then 8.5 inches long. 2.75 wide. I feel like that seems like a really thick bookmark. Let me see. How long is this one? Oh, this one is maybe close to 2.75 anyway. Alright, so as you can see, I don't measure perfectly. It's really, for me, all about what's showing in the actual bookmark. Like, what are the prettiest parts that I want to have showing. So for this one, if I were to cut this down into 4s, I feel like every 4th of this vellum shows something really nice and really pretty, and I would be happy to have it on either side of the bookmark. Same for this one. So if I were to cut this into 4ths, I get all of the beautiful components of the vellum that I like some of the postage stamps and the script and the florals. So cutting this one into 4ths works for me as well. I can't say the same thing about these, and I'm using the white paper underneath just so that you can see it a little bit better. So this one, I do have a duplicate of this one primarily because, and for this one as well, but it's primarily because I feel like it would look great wrapped around a book, right? Like all of the graphics. So I almost don't like to cut this, but we're making bookmarks today, so I'm going to cut it. But what I think is I'm going to do one side of the bookmark here and then another side of the bookmark here. So I'm only making one bookmark out of this sheet of vellum, and then the center portion I will save and reserve to use someplace else. For this other one, I kind of feel the same way. I feel like I wouldn't cut it into 4ths because I would be missing something that I really, really love in the vellum. So what I'm going to do, I want this section here. So this is going to be one side of the bookmark that I create, and then I'm thinking I want like this section here, so even cut off a little on the edge. So I'll make some cuts and we're going to do that together and we'll see where we land. So I think I'm just making one bookmark out of this print, one out of this print, and then I'll be cutting these two into 4ths. So that means 2 bookmarks per sheet since I'm using a piece of vellum on each side of the bookmark. Hope that makes sense. Alright, so let's get started. I'm going to start on this one and just kind of cut right down the center and go from there. So I've got all of my bookmarks cut and ready to go. I also have the white paper between. And I did make sure that I have them in the correct direction. At least the direction that I want them to be shown. So making sure, you know, front and back makes sense. Meaning I don't want, you know, some words to be right side up on this section or upside down on that side. You know what I mean. So I just made sure that they are going in the direction that I want. And I think, so this one is this corner rounder. Like I said, is optional, not required at all. I think for a few of these, I may do a corner punch that is very subtle. So nothing too major or anything. So that corner rounding business that I did there is extremely subtle. And I'll do that for all 4 corners of this one. And then maybe I'll switch it up for the next ones. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. Alright, now that we have all of the corners rounded and all of the pieces cut, it is time to arrange these inside of the lamination sheets, or laminating pouches as they're called. Now, if you do not have a laminator, I believe you could actually use the Avery laminating sheets. They are, I've never used them, so from what I understand, it's kind of like a self-adhesive, like a large adhesive clear sticker that you would put on the front and backs of things in order to laminate. That's loud. In order to laminate things. So you could absolutely try using those to make something similar. I know that people also use those to make vinyl stickers, a lot of different crafting types of things. So I'm surprised that I don't actually have some. But that is just an example of what you could, or how you could make bookmarks like these without having an actual laminating machine. And it probably would make a lot of sense to, I don't know, clip these together a little more securely, but I'm not going to do that. I'm just living on the edge and lining these up and hoping that as I close this laminating pouch over, that they will all stay in place. So I'm going to do 3 on each, in each pouch, just to make sure everybody has room. And because after they're laminated, we're going to cut around the edges. I want to make sure I have enough space around the edges of the bookmarks to cut, so that I'm not cutting into the gap that's going to be there. So we have all 3 of these in place, and what I am going to do is clip them now before I put them into the machine, just so that they don't move in the meantime. So I don't want them to move as I'm transferring them over to the lamination machine. And hopefully none of these shift. And as I put it into the machine, I'll show you. I'll remove the paper clips. Okay, so I think this is a little bit easier than the way I did it the first time. So when you're doing this, try to clip as you go, just to keep things in place. And now I'll do the 3rd bookmark that we're putting into this pouch. My lamination machine has been turned on for, I think, since the beginning of this video, so for quite a few minutes. And it is important to make sure that it warms up, so that it can laminate the papers well and quickly. And mine has a setting for 3 milliliters. Why do I keep saying milliliters? It's because I'm American. For 3 millimeters and for 5 millimeters. And I just have it on the setting for 5 millimeters because, as I mentioned, my laminating pouches are 5 millimeters thick. Alright, so we got these all set up. Let me bring the machine over. I think using a laminating machine is pretty straightforward. If you have like the instructions that came with your machine. But basically it gets hot and it uses that heat and that thermal processing in order to seal whatever you have inside of the laminating pouch. So for this example, or for our examples here, I wait until the ready light or the start light is on, and then I'm going to feed this page into the machine. It's going to come out this end, and I'll make sure I allow it to lay flat while it's cooling off so that it doesn't get too many of those bubbles or anything. And as I feed it, I'm just going to remove the clips, and hopefully that goes. This one, you can't see from this angle, but it does have these guides on the sides to show you where to line up the pouch as you feed it in. So now it's going in on its own. I'm going to gently remove the clips as it goes through the machine and hold the bookmark in place just to make sure it doesn't shift as it moves. And I'm also using my hands to hold the page up so that it doesn't drag on the table right underneath it. That I'm sure would make the pages shift as it goes in as well. So there you go. That's the first one. And I do have a habit of doing this twice. I also like to hold it up at the back just to make sure it doesn't get all wrinkly or anything either. I usually will put a book back here to catch it. But sometimes I do put these through twice. I honestly don't know if that's even necessary. I don't know if that's overkill. I don't know. But I may try and put this one through again. If there are any lamination professionals watching, tell me if you should do that. Like if that is advisable. I don't know. Then again, I guess you don't want the vellum to get too hot, because I'm pretty sure that's something that shouldn't overheat, or it's a type of material that should not overheat. So maybe that's not the greatest idea to put them through twice. Alright, so that's the 2 sheets of bookmarks laminated, and now we're off to the next step, which is to cut them down. So I'm going to turn this off, set it aside so it can cool down, and then we'll move on to cutting them. So as I mentioned, I'm not going to use the other trimmer, the paper trimmer, the thinner one, for this part to cut down the vellum, because that one is a little bit dull. I'm pretty sure I need a new blade. And what that's going to do is kind of make the edges of my vellum, or the plasticky parts, a little more jagged than I would prefer them to be. So I'm going to use this larger trimmer to do that, which, like I said, you don't need. It's just a nice to have. And any good quality heavyweight pair of scissors could do the same thing. Alright, so... and I'm going to try and show you this. So there is usually a little, almost like air pocket that goes along whatever it is that you're laminating. You can see it there. It's kind of like that strip there. You do not want to cut into that, because if you do, then your laminating plastic that's on the top is going to peel away from whatever you have inside. So that's where the seal is not quite fully sealed. So you want to cut outside of that line, just to make sure that the lamination doesn't come apart later on. And it varies depending on the thickness of whatever it is you're laminating, also maybe how it went into the machine, because on this side I actually don't see much of a broken seal at all. So just pay attention to that and be careful not to cut into that part when you're trimming whatever you have laminated. So I'm going to trim these down, and then I'll use the corner rounder to round the corners in the same way that I did the vellum sheets after I cut those. And I say in the same way, so I did the smaller radius for that one, and then I'm going to do, let me cut it this way, like the medium radius for a couple of the others, and the larger radius for, I think, like one of these I did. It's always helpful to have good lighting to make sure you're cutting correctly. And then you'll do the same on all 4 sides of the bookmarks. Again, making sure not to cut into that seal. And attempting to cut as straight as you have the patience for. Alright, so here are all of the bookmarks that we made today. And I'm very happy with how they turned out. I will have to say, I think this one's probably my favorite. This one just has been my favorite vellum from Sterling Ink for, you know, in a long time. So this one's really pretty. I really do love this one. And I like that I have extras left over from that sheet of vellum, so I can use this for something else. I can maybe tip it into my planner or use it someplace. So we've got this one. We've also got this one. I believe this is from the August subkit or collection. And then this one likely was October. Really pretty with the postage stamps. And I'm going to guess this might have been September. I don't really know for certain off the top of my head. But all of my bookmarks came out really nice. And I do love them. I also had the idea that you could easily if you have this equipment, punch a hole into the top of the bookmarks and then use a grommet punch or grommet maker to put a little grommet there, and then you could have a ribbon hanging off or a tassel hanging off. Where's my grommet punch? I don't know. Should I try it? We'll see. But that is a great idea for what you could do with these bookmarks as well, and how you could kind of jazz them up a little bit more. So punch a hole up at the top and then string through a ribbon or a tassel or anything just to make it your own, to kind of jazz it up even more. So there was your tutorial on how I make bookmarks out of vellum, how I laminate them to use wherever and however I like. I do use them for reading, of course, but also to mark pages in my planners. And this is how I do it. Very simple, very straightforward. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask and I'll get right back to you. Also, I'm going to have all of the items that I used in this video linked down below. Remember, anything from Amazon will be an affiliate link. Also, I will have my full Amazon store link down there as well if I forget to add anything, and the links to Sterling Ink for the vellums in case you're interested. Thank you so much for watching today's video, and I'll see you in the next one.